Last time we battled out of Brest in France and crossed the English Channel, where we got one final kicking from Mother Nature before arriving back into the calm familiar waters of Poole Harbour. We were home at last. Join us in this episode where we settle back into UK life before one final voyage and a very, very fond farewell to Intrepid Bear. This is Intrepid Bear, a 40-foot sailboat on her way home after 3 years of adventures.
Join us, Kate and Ian, as we navigate the challenges of voyaging back to the UK.
So that's a cracking morning for it. We are hauling out of the water this morning. The main thing we need to do is polish the boat. It's a lot of money just to polish the boat. Well, I've tried doing it alongside from a pontoon with my feet dangling in the water in Cunha. I've tried doing it from a dinghy and it's just impossible. And to get the best chance of sailing, we do need to polish her up. We've booked a lift out for 2 weeks, and also any buyers can get a survey done. And this morning is lift out morning, but it is absolutely throwing it down, which was forecast. But you can't change the booking, so we're in our foul weather gear in July. Bit different from the lack of clothes last July. And yeah, getting ready to go down and get hauled out. So yeah, I hope the wind eases up a little bit as well, because I don't fancy, it's quite an awkward little berth in Dorset Lake Yard. So anyway, we'll get going and we'll get on down there.
July.
July in the UK.
So we're in the yard and the last couple of days getting a car and getting boxes and bits and bobs, and now we're kind of junking out. Well, not junking out, to be fair, we're getting the boat a bit less personalised, as they say, ready for sail. So we're kind of half moving off. We've bought some packing boxes and we're packing all the stuff that we don't need day to day into boxes, and we've got a storage unit so that anyone who comes down to view can have a look in cupboards and things and not just be overwhelmed by our stuff. Thought I might feel a bit sad about getting ready to move off her, but I'm not. No. Anyway, we could end up living on her for months. It's just, this is the first part of moving, is taking our stuff off so that people can imagine their own lives here.
As you can imagine, unloading pretty much our entire lives down a wobbly ladder was quite the feat, and it's always amazing just how much stuff you can cram into a 40-foot boat.
Last big box. So just load off some of our stuff onto self-storage. Very glad we bought an estate car, actually. We weren't specifically, we didn't say we must have one, and we would, if it had been the right car, we wouldn't have had to have one. But actually, looking at the junk here, it's paid off already. We've only had the car 2 days, and very glad it was an estate car. But yeah, we're in a storage place, and we just take all the stuff, put it on a trolley, and we'll leave it here until we move on to another boat in due course.
We're in a car, we're in our car, which is just awesome, and We are on our way to buy. What are we going to buy?
I can't say it. Can't say the word. My name is Ian. And I'm a caravanner!
I don't know how all this will play out in terms of storyline, but yes, we're off to buy a caravan. Our new adventures are going to consist of our new boat, which we haven't found yet. We're in the process of selling Intrepid Bear. She's under offer, survey's gone through, and yeah, hopefully we'll have money in our bank in a week or so. So we're starting to look at boats, and we are looking at caravans now, because we intend to keep our motorboat on the south coast so that we can poole around and explore the beautiful places that the southwest and south coast of England has to offer, maybe across the channel, things like that. And then we're going to take a caravan and explore the UK in more depth. Yeah, on paper it sounds like a really good way to be able to pitch up somewhere.
It's a cost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cost. Yeah, we want to do more with the UK, but Airbnb is not a cheap option these days. So being able to take our home with us, which is what we love about cruising anyway, and pitch up somewhere, but we don't want fancy facilities. We're happy just to be able to pitch up and go and walk and take pictures and fly the drone and explore, and yeah, so we're quite excited about having a land-based yacht.
Cool, yeah, so having a car is like really nice. It's just the freedom to just go anywhere. Whenever we've had our hire cars when we've been away, it's just been so nice. Get to the shops, take the car. Don't want to make it too lazy, but yeah, so we chose a medium-sized car because we want to be able to tow the caravan. We've ended up with a BMW 320d. I like driving quite a lot, so I wanted a little bit of performance, so we ended up with the diesel because we've got good fuel economy and good power, more power than my old petrol car. And yes, it's just really nice to be able to drive again, and trying not to spend too much money on fuel because I just like to go for a drive. So there it is, hitched up. We bought the caravan. We didn't want to film the people who were selling it to us, but we have the caravan. We've hitched it up. The lights are working. It's all hooked onto the car. We are officially shed draggers. It's quite exciting, really. There's all sorts of bits and pieces I've got to work out how to work when I get there. So what we'll do is we'll get going. We'll head back. We've got a site booked. We'll get on the site. Kate's got to go to have a dentist appointment this afternoon, and I'll get faffing around trying to make the caravan all work out, because we'll probably stay in it tonight, start moving our stuff off the boat. So yeah, we'll get going. So we are all set up. There's our water supply there. Sucks it out of this rolly thing and into the caravan. The wastewater goes there. That's not toilet waste, that's just what they call grey water. So sink waste, that sort of thing. That's all set up. The jack legs are down. And there she is. The electric connection. The electric connection is just like a boat, so I'm still calling it shore power. And effectively we're at anchor. But this anchorage is not going to be rolly. So we're going inside, we'll have a very quick look around, and then we're cracking open the wine. The saloon. Kate lounging seductively.
Just tiredly.
Saloon, galley, I'm still going to speak boat language, sorry. Fridge. Full-size cooker, that's quite cool. And then we went for a fixed bed. We did not want to have to be making the bed every time, so there's our bed, and in there toilet and shower. Very small, compact should I say. I'll sort that in a minute because I need two hands. Yeah, it's a very compact and bijou. It's like a 7-metre boat basically, which is pretty small considering we live on a 12-metre boat. But
it's quite big. I think the only thing we're missing is the V-berth.
Yeah, and it feels quite small when you go that way, and then suddenly you're at the whole bed. But it's good to have the bed. I wouldn't want to be making the bed every night, so that's awesome to not have to do that. So, cheers.
Back down in the boatyard and life was not fun. The caravan had become our temporary home as we had accepted a full price offer on Intrepid Bear. However, that became complicated by a frankly incompetent buyer's surveyor throwing up all sorts of issues that had me jumping through various hoops. I don't use the word incompetent lightly, but when he is adamant that the boat has been re-engined when the builder certificate shows that she hasn't, and he won't accept advice from a propeller manufacturer on whether it is fitted correctly, then that set the tone for me. Anyway, it was very stressful for several weeks, and the only bit I filmed, as evidence for the surveyor, was the requirement to drill into the rudder to check for a corrosion. Whilst in an ideal world the inside of the rudder is totally dry, it is basically normal for most boats of this age and design to have water in the rudder, and the purpose of drilling was to check that the resulting water was clear and not excessively rusty. Luckily, Intrepid Bear passed this test, and finally, after a very draining month, it was time to put her back in the water and head to the Solent for the buyer's sea trial.
We are off to Intrepid Bear today, not quite for the last time, but nearly. We finally agreed a revised price with our buyer after the survey, and we're going down today to relaunch her from the boatyard, put on a mooring, and then tomorrow, hopefully Ian and possibly with the new owner is going to sail her to the Solent to complete the handover and do the sea trial. So yeah, big day.
Big day.
It's been a month. It's been a lot longer than we thought it was going to be, and very stressful actually. So yeah, it's over about a month since we got back to the UK, a month since we lifted out and had the offer on her. But it's been a lot of toing and froing over surveys and bits and bobs. So yeah, we're both quite exhausted by the whole process. I'm very glad to get it done. I don't, and I think me and Ian talked last night, I don't feel sad at all. It's obviously the right thing and the right time. Walked around the Bear yesterday when we took the last pieces off her, and just felt good about the fact that we've had so many adventures on her, but looking forward to the next chapter. I'm not going to go because I wasn't going to go, but then I thought I'd like to go because I've been sailing for a while and I might not sail again for a while, but logistically it makes more sense if I stay and then I drive up to Solent to pick Ian up on Saturday evening. It's a naked bear. Right, let's do this. Some amazing adventures. It's weird to think that we've been in some incredible places with her, like across Biscay twice, to the Med, across to, well, not far short of Turkey, yeah, all the way back, moored underneath volcanoes, and met amazing people along the way, and it's been one heck of an adventure, and I'm a bit sad for that now I think about it, but actually I'm ready for a new adventure. It's a hard life, and it's been good, but time for the next chapter.
So like Kate was saying on the way here, kind of detached from the boat, we kind of moved on, but sometimes it's a moment, and I had it yesterday, you just sit here, look out of these windows with the electronics powering up and think of all the places in the last 3 years that those electronics have powered up. Amazing scenery behind us, volcanoes, stunning crystal blue waters, but we kind of passed it, we're moving on, but it's still, yeah, it's nice to kind of just, I can almost see lacquer out of those windows as I sit here and look out, and it's like,
A bit sad to
we did we did some good stuff. Be ready to fend off as well, please.
Yeah. Out on a mooring.
It's quite nice out here, isn't it? Maybe we should buy a sailboat.
Maybe we should buy a sailboat. Maybe we'll buy a motorboat. Who knows?
Maybe we'll buy a canal boat.
Ah, ditch crawling.
Ditch crawling.
Give up this lumpy water.
Yeah, lumpy water boats. We've been looking at canal boats because it might actually happen, and by the time you see this video it will have either happened or it won't have done. But we're certainly thinking about going to live on the canals for the peace. Not having to worry about weather, not having to worry about tides. The boats are simpler as far as I can see, far less to go wrong, although they will still break because they're boats, but they're not in salt water. But anyway, they're known as ditch crawlers because you're basically crawling along a ditch at about 3 miles an hour. And these seagoing boats are known as lumpy water boats by the ditch crawlers. I didn't know that until a couple of days ago. So this is a lumpy water boat.
So instead of maybe going to the dark side, i.e. motorboating, we're going to get, what side is ditch crawling?
Is it even boating? It's a very different thing altogether, isn't it? It has its own set of challenges and its own unique pleasure, but it's almost, there's very little comparison with seagoing boating. It doesn't make it any greater or lesser. It's just, it's not. It's almost just, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's not. You can't really compare the two.
It's like apples and oranges.
It is apples and bananas.
Right, I'm saying my final goodbyes. Maybe we're going to call a water taxi to take us from the mooring, because we've come, basically launch the boat, put it on a mooring, make sure that the 2 holes that Ian's done aren't leaking, which are not, and we're going to leave here overnight for Ian to set sail with her up Solent tomorrow. So we can wait, call the water taxi to take us back in, and this will be my final goodbye to Intrepid Bear. So.
I got to see the broker this afternoon to sign the bill of sale. Look at that waterline compared to all what junk was on board. She is sitting a good 2 inches higher in the water because of all our junk not being on the boat anymore.
She'll probably sail really fast tomorrow.
Yeah. Say goodbye.
Yeah. 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 Bye. Have fun.
Just powering everything up, switching everything on, trying to remember the checklist really. It's quite, I don't know if emotional is the word, but thought-provoking. The places we've sat, like I was saying about looking out the windows, haven't got the checklist with me at the moment, but now that reminds me now, sitting in those stunning places, sometimes very hot places, Kate sitting there reading out the checklist, me going through it. Now I've just got to try and remember what I need to do. So uncover the sail, take off the mast bag, put the main halyard on, tighten up the Genoa halyard, just make sure the steps are up, make sure the life raft's secure, check the engine, all those sort of things. Already done all that, but yeah, it's kind of poignant. Poignant is a good word for it. It's kind of like, you know, we are ready to move on. And this last month in the boatyard, I haven't documented much of it, but it's been hell really. It's just been horrible with I have a real problem trying to get the seacocks fitted. They're in such a tight space. So yeah, just getting the boat uncovered, getting ready to set sail up to Portsmouth. Sea trial tomorrow with the new owner. If that goes well, then he takes ownership on Monday, I guess. Alright, we've got 7 knots of breeze from a decent angle. It's going to be a broad reach, 7 or 8 knots of breeze. So we'll put some sail up. What I'll do is I'll steer the boat into the wind using the autopilot remote, hoist the main, bear away, and then we can just roll out the Genoa as usual. Wind's back up, so we'll turn the engine down or off, see what happens. And we got about 4 knots, which is not loads, but tide is against us and the wind has dropped off again at the moment, so I think we'll be alright. So I'm going to switch the engine off. So I'm going to pop a route in the plotter, not so because I don't know my way, I know where I'm going up the Solent, but just really so that I can keep an eye on the ETA. Okay, so we've plotted a route. I'll put it onto Navigate in a minute, but just of note there is all those tidal arrows. You can see there's 2.5 knots of tide in the entrance to Hurst Narrows at the moment coming against me. That's why I've left it this time of day. The tide goes slack in the Hurst Narrows there at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, so don't really want to get there much before that. So it's 20 to 12 now, that'll be about right. If I am punching a little bit when I get there, it doesn't matter, it should turn in my favour. Once it does turn in my favour, I should be scooting up the Solent, probably with, you know, 7, 8 knots over the ground with a bit of luck. So Kate treated me to a pot noodle for my last voyage, which is very nice. However, we forgot to bring a fork. So pot noodle with a teaspoon, that could be a challenge. So just coming towards the Hurst entrance to the Solent, and there's the iconic Needles over there with the Needles Lighthouse. We've got 15 knots of wind from behind now, but we're pretty much downwind. It's very broad reach, so we're only doing 4.8 knots. Although I say only doing that, the speed through the water is shown at 6.3. So, and I think that might be close to correct because there should be quite a lot of tide coming out against us at the moment. So it could actually be that we're doing around 6 knots. You know, I've never really trusted the paddle wheel because I've never quite got round to calibrating it properly, but I think that could be about right. So yeah, we're heading in towards the Hurst entrance, past Hurst Castle and into the Solent. So we're a little bit early at Hurst Castle, so we've still got a bit of tide against us, but only 1 knot, and we're doing about 6 through the water because we've got a decent breeze of 12 knots now. So we should punch through without too much problem, and as we're under sail we're not burning fuel, and we've still got an ETA of 6:15 in the evening at the moment, and that will probably come down because the tide will turn and blast us off up through the Solent with a bit of luck. See how busy it is out on the Solent from the AIS targets. What you notice though is you can't see any targets beyond a few miles. First time that happened to me was in Gibraltar, and the reason for that is the plotter only plots up to 200, I think, targets, and in somewhere as busy as this, it plots the closest 200, which is enough because you know once you've dealt with all of these, you won't be looking for stuff beyond that. So it plots the closest 200. I think it's 200, it was upgraded from 100 recently. It might be more, but whatever, it's full up. So it doesn't see any beyond that 200 that it can see. Sometimes we can see stuff up to 50, 60 miles away when we're not so busy. But the plotter is full, can't see beyond the 200 that are here. And the other thing is a lot are in marinas. If you zoom into marinas and things like that, a lot of people leave their AIS switched on, which immediately fills up your plotter. So I'd really rather they didn't do that, because you know it's kind of a waste of bandwidth, if you like. But maybe turn your AIS off when you're not on the boat, because otherwise you're filling people's screens with blobs all the time. So I lead the bow line right back to the gate. That way I can always I can get it from the gate, so I can step ashore with it, or if I could just back by the gate, I can grab it and I can take it forward. When you're single-handed and docking, you can't be too early to be prepared, or it's never too early to be prepared. So if the conditions allow, I put the fenders on now, and then I've just got to flick them over the side. I do them on both sides. I already know the berth we're going into, and I already know that it'd be starboard side too, so I'll put some lines on ready. I wouldn't do this if we were still heeling over and it was rough out here, because the fenders would go over the side, and you don't want to drag your fenders while you're still underway, because one, it looks unprofessional, and two, the reason it's unprofessional is because when they're continually bouncing around along the side of the boat, they can easily get untied and flung off, and then you lose them. So it's not tidy and it's not seaman-like. So that's why we don't do it. But yeah, so I'll put the fenders on, put the lines on, and then we'll be ready to go once we actually get into the marina. We're not probably in there for another hour yet, but because, as I say, because it's so flat, I can do the fenders now while we're out in open water, and I don't have to worry about other traffic. Okay, so we're all rigged, all the fenders. I've got bow line and stern line both taken back, forward and back to the gate, and then I've got this spring line with a loop on the end, which I've put quite short, and there's a possibility that I can just drop that onto a cleat as I come in, and that'll stop me going too far forward. I may not, because it's quite difficult to actually get it onto a cleat while you're coming into the dock, but I can perhaps at least jump off, hold on to that. We'll see how the setup is when we get in there. So Portsmouth, where we're coming into now, is a Royal Navy dockyard. In fact, it's known as the home of the Royal Navy, because this is where the biggest Royal Navy base is in the UK. Obviously back in the day we had a lot bigger Navy, but it looks like both aircraft carriers are in, so that's quite a cool thing to see. Hopefully we'll get a better view of that as we come in. See, by having the lines already there, I was quite lucky with the dropping the spring line onto that cleat. That may or may not have worked, but if it didn't, it wasn't the end of the world. I still could have hopped off with it, but I managed to just drop it onto the cleat as we came past, which is really handy. Once you've done that, I got control of the boat. She does tend to swing in a bit, but at least she's stopped and she won't hit the dock in front. And then those two other lines are just to hand, and I can just take them ashore from the gate without having to reach across. Because when I went to the bow, you can probably see the bow is a long way out. I couldn't have necessarily reached that, certainly from the side. Might have done from the front, but it's easier that it's there and I can just take it off the side, and good. So yeah, it's all good. We are here.
Waking up in Greece. Is this a dream? For those who don't know, we are closing in on a long-term goal of sailing our own boat back to the island of Paxos, where we got married 5 years before. We sailed there on a charter boat, so to now arrive in these waters where once we holidayed is like a dream come true to us, and we can barely believe that it is real.
So there it is, Fortress of Corfu.
Greece, on my house.
Sitting here, lounging in my corner. This is the corner. You probably haven't seen it because I don't normally wear very much of an evening, but of an evening this is where I've always sat, lounging here. Kate kind of sits next to me with her legs diagonally across. But anyway, this is where I sit of an evening. This is the, as long as the sea trial goes okay, this will be my last evening ever on Intrepid Bear. I'm here alone. Kate didn't come on this trip because it logistically makes sense for her to keep the car and come pick me up. The boat is empty of everything except I've bought a duvet which I'm using as my cushion,
and a little bit of food and just an overnight bag basically. And we both thought that it would be sad. Kate said that's going to be a sad, lonely night for me. Not just because Kate's not here, obviously I do miss Kate, but to be on the boat when she's empty on a final night, you would think that would be a rather sad, cold, lonely night. But actually, I'm not feeling sad. I'm not feeling sad at all. For one, it's really nice after the hell of the boatyard. We did have a bad time. I had a bad time in the boatyard, moving all those boxes off, getting rid of everything. The fight I had with the through hulls, when I basically nearly gave up, and I tried to get an engineer to come and sort them out, but couldn't get one. And then I had a brainwave of how to do it. But after the hell of the boatyard and the dirt of the boatyard, the decks were horrible. The boat was, well, it still is covered in bird's mouth. But after all that month stuck in the boatyard and the stress of everything leading up to it, to have the boat back running, she's performed faultlessly today. I've got the heating on, even though it's August. I'm cozy, I'm warm. And although she's empty, because we had everything put away quite nicely, you know, you can't see the books, but it's not like there's a load of clutter disappeared. We always kept her pretty tidy. So it doesn't feel especially empty, or it doesn't to me. But that's one thing. It's nice that she's back up and running. It's really lovely that the boat is back up and running, doing what she's supposed to do, floating where she's supposed to float. And I'm not feeling sad. I'm sitting here, and I said it earlier, and there's a couple of times to the day I've just been sat, and it's like looking around, and it sounds a bit twee, but the whole boat just echoes with the memories of the things that we've done. And sat here watching this episode when we arrived in Greece, that was the peak for us. And then after that we lost our way, or me particularly lost our way a little bit. We had some amazing times after that, of course we did, but also we were not loving the lifestyle. But we were never out of love with the boat. She's a beautiful boat, she's a solid boat, and she's looked after us for 10,000 miles, or more than 10,000 miles. And basically we're done with our sailing. Sailing doesn't make me happy. Living full time, fighting the elements, fighting for anchorages, that's not making me particularly happy either. So it is a fond farewell, is what I feel, to this boat at the moment. We will go our separate ways, and I will remember this boat with great fondness and affection, and I hope she will remember us in the same way. But yeah, I don't know if I'm putting it across very well, but I am actually enjoying the nostalgia, sitting here just looking around, and the fans when they were blowing in the really hot places, and the switch panel, the amount of times I've switched those switches on to turn on the instruments and go somewhere. I had a shower just now, the shower, yeah, it's just, I don't know, I feel a kind of peace. I'm at peace with what we're doing. I'm at peace with our decision to move on. And yeah, I'm quite happy, I'm having a nice evening. It's a shame Kate's not here to share it with me, and maybe she wouldn't feel the same, I don't know. But yeah, I'm having a nice final evening with the bear, and it is really nice. Don't think there's much more I can say to that really, so back to the telly.
Come aboard and let's see what's out there.
So there we go, sea trial has passed. The new buyer is happy, funds have been transferred. So it is a very fond farewell to Intrepid Bear. And onwards we go to look for the next boat. But yeah, there she goes. Lovely old girl, but going on for new adventures. I don't feel sad, I feel nostalgic and happy for the new adventures, and happy for Intrepid Bear. She's going to go north where she belongs. So this is really nice. So I've had a really nice final evening with her. And yeah, now we move on. So farewell.
so we bid a very fond farewell to Intrepid Bear. But don't drift too far. Kate and I will be back soon to share the choices we've made and the horizons we're steering towards. Stick around for the next chapter.